Oh, 3, 2, 1, live!
Yeah!
2,
Live?
1, live! 2, 1, live! Oh, wow. This is like being on CNN.
Yeah!
Yeah. We're live on the Oprah show.
Like right in my stomach.
Oh.
I think you're making stuff up. Oh my god. Just please ignore it.
What it may or may not look like.
Let's just put that.
All right. Happy Monday morning. That's great. That's so awesome.
Morning.
It is a little funny shaped.
It is. No, it's very suggestive.
Yeah.
It looks like an egg for Easter.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah,
Have you ever seen
oh, on this one over here.
Baby.
Wait.
Hey.
Oh no, this one.
This one over
stabbing
here.
Kate.
Yeah,
The Easter egg stabbing Kate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm good.
Over there on that one,
So this is the
Yeah.
first
All
time
right.
in 5 months or 22 episodes that we've noticed that this looks like an Easter egg.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
Easter egg.
like
Right after
it.
Easter.
Yes.
Oh my god. All
Happy
right.
Easter.
Happy Easter. Happy Earth Day. More importantly, welcome to episode number. Hold on.
Get the notes.
Welcome to episode 22 of Wild Hearts Podcast. It's Monday, April 22nd, and it's Earth Day. Here we go. That's my thing.
And
Oh, I like it.
confession.
Beautiful.
What's that?
Oh.
I didn't know that today was actually Earth Day. I thought it was tomorrow.
It's today, right?
Wow.
I love that reaction. That's so perfect.
This is the co-founder of Sustainable Seacoast here. Very much on top
know
of things
what
going
day
on.
it is.
That's okay. No, I think that's
I needed.
Honestly, Monday.
Twirl a line in your mug.
Mondays are usually the only day I know what day it is.
True, same.
Because we do a podcast.
Yeah.
Other than that, they're just days.
Yeah, they're just days and they're just days with like no, like somebody's like, what day is it?
What's so funny? Cause like, I used to work in an office. I was like, yeah, it's Friday. It's
Yeah.
Saturday. And now I'm like, people are like, yeah, it's Saturday.
It's
I'm like,
today.
wait, what? It's what? What
See
is it?
now I'm like, yes, it's today.
Yeah, like it's.
Yeah.
I'm like jacked up. It's like
Maybe it's
Tuesday.
another day.
Woo! Yeah.
It's coffee day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Morning.
this is
Coffee.
appreciation and gratitude at its fullest.
Oh.
Yeah.
Not having to say
Oh,
it's Friday
I-
or it's Sunday. I remember having the Sunday.
the
days
Sunday
so much.
scaries. The Sunday
Yeah.
scaries.
Yeah, like I still, because everyone else, it's weekend for it, so like everyone else is happy and everything, so I feel like I still absorb the weekend vibes.
Yeah.
That's good.
Oh, I mean, for sure. There's still
Especially really
nothing
out and
like.
about.
Yeah.
It's still an element, but I love the way you describe it because it's like every day is just
It's today.
is a day.
Yeah.
You know, and you're just like, yeah.
It's not just a day. It's today.
It's today. Yeah. I mean, I'm like, oh wait, we have
We
other.
have a special
Just smashed her head on the
Animal
table.
cruelty.
Hey, you know what? When you go on Good Morning America, everybody gets a Good Morning America mug, but not
I'm
a
so
Wild
sorry.
Hearts.
We only have
Falling on a
two.
budget. Falling on a budget over here.
We're still new here.
Still working out the kinks, but we'll definitely keep that in mind for
Yeah.
future reference.
Yeah,
Bring your own mug. So you need a sticker, actually.
I know. We do need a sticker.
Yeah.
Yeah, where's your
Well,
sustainable
so
seating?
I was
I know,
joking on the
seriously.
way
We
here.
just
I was
said
like,
that.
I said, you know, my membership only came with one sticker, so I put it in my water bottle. But we have to
Her
upgrade.
membership
it.
came with 2 stickers. She just doesn't know what she
No,
did
it
with
was
the other
one really big one and then one small one, and the big one I put on the computer,
Yeah.
and the small one on the mug.
Oh my gosh.
Makes sense.
Well, for people who have no idea what you're talking about, you will shortly.
Yeah.
Right. Also, just so everyone knows, we can't see the Legato.
Well, you can.
This is a Legato Romagnolo.
You gotta roll your R's.
Is that English? Rogoto, Rogan, Miola?
Try it again. Legato Romagnolo.
Logoto,
Oh.
Wait, I have to get that.
Romagnolo.
Romagnolo. Logoto, Romagnolo. Wow, I'm learning.
Keith had
so
to
much.
watch a YouTube video to learn how to roll his R's. He's still working on it.
Oh, look at the cute.
She's an Italian truffle hunting dog.
Oh my gosh,
Oh.
look at how chill she is.
Talent.
Are we
Wow.
interviewing you? Look at how relaxed she is. She's just like, okay guys, I'm ready.
Kind of like
Ask me the question.
Ears,
Oh my
not
gosh, she's
that.
such a cute little nugget.
Oh my gosh.
Well, if you
Oh.
couldn't tell, she loved, these guys love dogs.
Alright.
So do you want to tell the people, well, I guess Keith's people who we are?
Yeah.
And then we'll
Okay,
say
you
who-
did have your.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
over
he's
there.
over here. He's over here.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
Super high quality.
Yeah.
Oh, you are high quality.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, upgrade, guys.
Yeah. Okay, Keith's people. I am Michaela. My business is Michaela Jean Photography. I work with intimate adventurous couples. I also do a lot of women's empowerment portraiture. We are at my other business right now, Maple and Moon Creative, which is a co-working and photography studio. And I am half of Walmart's podcast.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Hello, Keith's people and Kate's people. I'm Sean Adam. I am the other 50% of Wild Hearts podcast, and I additionally have a business called Up and Adam Inspirational Speaking. Yeah.
I like that name.
Thank you.
Up and Adam.
Get up and out, get after it. So I started that business based on my own journey with mental health issues and just wanting to really show people that it was an exit door and that, you know, we all face challenges, but those aren't the things that define us, and we can still live our lives and go live on a bus for 5 months.
Oh, yeah. That just did.
But we not announced that, but
Pretty good.
yeah, so that's who I am. So now we're gonna announce who our special guests are today. So Kate and Keith are wedding photographers by day and environmental activists by night. Together they have co-founded Sustainable Seacoast and are working with a team of volunteers to help Seacoast area restaurants and events to move away from disposables and single-use plastics.
You're supposed to have that memorized.
Yeah.
No. Listen, I'm like on this side, so like people can't see the paper, but I'm not. Welcome, guys.
I think we're wedding photographers by day.
By night, really.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point. We're wedding
Technical.
photographers by night
Yeah.
and environmental activists by day. I like
Listen,
that.
guys, this is why I fill out the sheet. Okay, I'm just reading what you guys do.
It was a
Her
rough
copywriter
time.
was on vacation.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to just tell? So that's obviously the overview of who you guys are as like as a squadron. Do you want to like kind of say who you guys are individually? Maybe elaborate.
Go
Would
ahead.
you like to?
I like
People who you
Because
are.
I'm always talking too much.
I know.
You go. She's like, I know.
That's true.
It's
He's
true.
gonna take up most of the
That's great, that's
conversation
fine.
here, so I might as well
I do
get
the
my
same thing. So
get my 2 cents in while I can. So I grew up the daughter of 2 very huge environmentalists who actually were visiting this weekend and just shoved off. And they're pretty inspirational people, having worked in the public interest. My mom was part of the activist movement that banned DDT way back in the 70s and worked on breast milk and toxins and a whole bunch of environmental issues. And then my dad was a water quality specialist and is a really useful person to have in the family and spent most of his days at toxic waste sites and really beautiful places. So they're the type of hippies that never smoked pot and bathed regularly, but everything else kind of fits the mold.
Yeah.
And so I had some really cool role models growing up, and then my mom ran an organic farm, still has it. And so I grew up thinking that that was the way that life in the world was, and got really kind of disillusioned by that and shocked when I entered the real world and realized that not everyone has that kind of giving back to the earth mentality. So, but I found I was in the minority, and it wasn't until I met Keith that I was able to really find a partner in that mentality. And I think he had it already, but I kind of gave him the little push.
That's so cool.
Oh, I already have.
I saw the eyebrows raised on that.
He was wondering where I was going with that.
I know. I was like, I saw the eyebrows raised.
Well, I mean, it's not like she hasn't been an incredibly powerful influence in my life to have me act on it.
Yeah,
right? So
for sure.
I had all of these personal beliefs in my life of trying to be a better steward for the environment and a better kind of partner for our planet. But Kate kind of was my inspiration, our inspiration, to kind of take that to the next level and try and affect other people's lives while we were doing our own, you know, in a polite kind of way. Like, I'm not out there shaking signs in people's faces or anything like that. Trying to do it in a little bit of a different way. Not that there's not a place for that, because I do believe there's a place for that. But
No, he just sits at coffee shops and yells across the coffee shop for which bin to put things in.
That's great. No, that's helpful.
Compost! It's compost!
I get confused. I could use a guy.
I don't know why I sit next to the trash can, because I can't get anything else accomplished. And there's those 3 things, and I see somebody there, and I'm hoping, come on, you can do it. And they go to put it in the wrong one. I'm like, no, it goes in the middle.
I honestly, like, I'm not gonna lie, every time I go to my hair, I panic. I feel like it's like, every time I'm like,
Well, most things there are compostable.
I know.
But the problem is,
Like 90% of what they put out is compostable.
a a lot of folks, there's not a lot of like forward kind of messaging on those items, those particular items like the cups and things like that. It doesn't say, hey, put me in the compost bin. And you know, in the barista's defense, they're trying to whip through 17 coffees a minute, right?
Yeah.
So they don't have the time to explain and educate every single person at the counter. So that's what we're trying to help with in, you know, the messaging at the waste stations and the messaging through our website and through our social media and through all of our other education platforms, is to try and get people to take a second, I guess, and kind of think it through.
Yeah, that's
So
amazing.
cool. Well, we're definitely going to dive more into that.
Well, I want to talk about you guys as like partners, because I think you said something right off the bat
Oh
that's
yeah, we're married for anyone who doesn't
really
know.
well. No, I think that's really important.
We're
Is
Yeah.
technical, legal partners.
so I'm at this point in my life where I'm like truly inspired by marriage, especially with, you know, like our divorce rates, you know, and like I've been lucky enough to have parents that have been together for over 30 years, and working at the restaurant I do, I've been meeting these like couples that have like 62-year anniversaries and like 40, and it's just like, it's something that I truly like think is super valuable, because at least in my eyes, you know, a partner is someone that helps you do exactly what you guys are talking about. Like you kind of have these beliefs, but you're like, you're kind of like, I don't know, and then you just have that one person that like believes in you, and it gives you the strength to kind of like go forth for what you guys have done, and you guys have built, you know, like an entire nonprofit off that. So do you guys want to kind of talk about your journey of like
A married couple?
How'd you meet?
meeting? How'd you
Let's
meet?
go-
Like,
yeah.
come on, let's get the whole
Yeah.
story. Let's get it.
Start from the beginning.
I mean, whatever you like to
Okay.
share, but yeah.
Well, go ahead and start from the beginning, honey. Tell them all about how.
Keith's like, I don't remember.
Tell
I
us-
know, our version's
Tell
just
them
slightly
tell them all
different.
about how I ignored you. Go ahead.
He ignored me. He did. He was too important and too busy to notice that I was taking. Well, it's like a educational type thing that he was leading for photography, for other photographers to come and kind of get practice and you know, non-pressure, non-client environment to practice portrait photography and whatever lighting techniques they wanted and
Cool.
to learn. And so I joined in on that. And he was like the Pied Piper and had like all these little hungry photographers running
Yeah.
after him to learn all the tidbits that he had. And I was like, this guy's a jerk. His ego is huge.
I love this story.
Look at him, like, with his
I love
flock
this too. I'm so happy about
of
this.
adorers following him around. Like, I want nothing to do with this guy.
That's hysterical.
And then we became friends.
Oh my god.
And apparently my first impression was totally off base. So,
Was I supposed to be on airplane mode?
You can turn
Oops.
your notifications off, but
No, you're fine.
they're
That's
doing
good.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kate and I met through photography.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plans over.
There's been a huge transition in both of our lives since we've. So to get back to the core of your real kind of inspiration, your question, as far as marriages go and things like that. I think that, you know, as much as I had a kind of history before Kate and she had a history before me, I think that those histories and the people that we were with prior to that and all that, everything becomes a kind of teacher to prepare you for whatever stage of life you're in. And as much as I have things that I would possibly label as a regret or anything like that, I wouldn't trade anything for where I am right now. I'm in such a great place that it's all of the kind of education that brought us here is totally worth it.
well, to expand on that, I'd say what both of our cases was being individuals rather than like what I look at relationships as now, and the most successful relationships and the ones that I look to cultivate and keep are the ones where it's a synergy. And so you're doing, by being with the other person, you're achieving more than you can do on your own, and you're each doing that for the relationship. And so and that's the way that why we value our relationship so much, is because we motivate and encourage each other to be far better than we could be individually. But we also look to create those relationships in every aspect of our lives. So that's what I think was a big shift when we started to spend a lot more time together, is realizing that it's not like relationships don't have to be a lot of work. Like if they are, it's probably not the one that you need in your life.
I disagree. I think there's a ton of work.
Well, yeah, but
But
it's not like
we get used to
negative,
it, just like
negative work.
just like when you do whatever it is, whatever hobby or profession you're in, and you do it for a significant amount of time, it becomes kind of part of your life, your habit or whatever. So like one of the things that I kind of hang our hat on is being a tremendous asset to our success in our relationship is honesty.
Yeah.
And when we first got together, it was really difficult. It was like what I would quote as being a brutal kind of honesty. It was very, very challenging and painful, right? So
I took the honesty thing a little too far.
So you know,
It's a nice way of saying.
there were situations where it's like, well, when we first started out, it was like we I read this article about this couple wrote about their relationship, and it was that they would enact a bubble, and so we're gonna have a conversation, and we're gonna have this conversation inside this bubble, and the rules are that you have to let me kind of express how I feel, and that you're not allowed to kind of retaliate, or there can't be any consequences for what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
And so we took this on in the beginning and said, you know, can I enact the bubble, or can we get in the bubble or whatever? And we would say something, you know, like something that like, you know, you wouldn't say to somebody that you're not in the same kind of relationship, like, you know, your hair looks stupid or something like that. Not in that kind of way, but like
a little nicer.
I'm trying to figure out like an example situation. There was this one example where we were scheduled to go somewhere, and Kate wasn't feeling well, and there were a couple other people in the party that weren't feeling well, and I really wanted to go, and I was in my own place feeling like she was being selfish about not wanting to come.
Mm-hmm.
And she had to enact the bubble and tell me, like, look, this is personally how I'm feeling, and I'm not feeling well, and I don't think it's good for me to go. And it was kind of a disappointing and kind of painful thing to hear, rather than her getting up and just being miserable through the whole process. And it allowed her to be able to say what she needed to say, and it also allowed me to kind of take myself out of the situation and think about it from her perspective, and realize that this is like that whole put your own mask on before you help your kids kind of thing. She needs to kind of be an advocate for herself before she can contribute to the relationship. But anyway, so that was in the beginning, and now we're in a place where we're kind of always in the bubble. We always are appreciative of the fact that we are 100% honest with each other. And I know that people are gonna be like, yeah, BS, you're not really. We are though. It's like always honest, because it is so much more relaxing to be in a situation where you know you're not holding anything back. You don't have to keep anything from your partner. It's all out there. It's very peaceful to be in a place where you're just wide open.
Well, it's freedom, isn't it? Because
absolutely.
I mean, I like how you guys talk about what you try to cultivate in your own relationship, but also trying to do that in, like, I would assume friendships and business partnerships, because there's this element of, like, I found this, you know, I'm 30 years old now, and I really have condensed kind of, you know, who I spend the majority of my time with, because, like, I just want to be able to be in every single piece of my energy. You know, like, I don't want to have to, like, because everyone has their own perspective of how they view you. And some people, like, it's only okay to be, like, X version of yourself. And I'm like, dude, I just want to be real. Like, sometimes I'm super nice. Sometimes I'm, like, real blunt. And I'm going to, like, hit you where it hurts, you know, like, with truth, you know. But I think those are the valuable relationships. Because, like you said, if there's any element of you holding back, like, you're not being honest and true to yourself. And you're not walking in alignment. You're just setting up, like, really suffering for yourself. And I think what's cool about what you guys talk about, this bubble of truth, is that I feel like that's such a valuable foundation for the fact of what you guys are doing with Sustainable Seacoast, because you're chasing a lot of truth with would you guys tell me 9% of recycling gets actually.
That's an old statistic, sadly.
Yeah,
oh, really. So
it's a kind of very nuanced statistic, but
The statistic is 9% or less of plastic is actually recycled.
Wow.
And so that statistic was a pre when China
it was from
pulled out.
2015.
So so it's obviously got to be worse now.
It's reduced, but also that number. The interesting thing about that number is that what we think about for plastic, what we think about for recycling, is probably different for a lot of people. Like, what people actually consider to be recycling is probably different for you than what it is for somebody down the street. And it's certainly different for me.
Yeah.
So when I see the Chasing Arrows logo of recycling, I think that means like I use something, it goes through a process, and it comes back to me as that something, right? And so that's how it works as recycling goes. Or something potentially better, like if I take this material that is in this item, let's say a beer can, and it goes through the process, then it turns into something of equal value. Whereas with plastic, that's just simply not the case. Plastic gets recycled. First of all, if I take a plastic bottle and I send it through the system, it can't come out as a plastic bottle again. It has to, the whole process of recycling plastic degenerates the native plastic, and you have to add new plastics to it to give it
Form.
that kind of the qualities of whatever you're making. So you have to, there has to be an influx of new, or input of new plastics to make that happen. And it continues to degenerate as it gets recycled. New plastic has to be inserted into that, first of all. And then second of all, plastic doesn't get recycled in the same way I think it gets recycled, or what I consider recycling. So like what I just explained to you, plastic typically ends up getting downcycled. So it goes through this process, and then it turns into something like this table. Sorry for this microphone. It turns into this table, or it turns into a park bench, or it turns into fleece that we might be wearing. And that stuff doesn't get recycled. That stuff will typically end up in a landfill or an incinerator. Whereas with aluminum, as awful as aluminum is for the environment to extract from the earth, once you have it, it's infinitely recyclable. It's just a very, very valuable substance that can continue to recycle itself. And right now, the idea that what plastic gets kind of returned back to something as same of value is less than 2%. And they're continuing to make more and more and more and more plastic, because the creation of plastic is it's very cheap. It's much cheaper to create new plastic than it is to try and figure out how to recycle old plastic. But also, plastic is made with byproducts of things like natural gas and things like that. So they have this stuff there, and they're trying to find something to do with it. So like your bottles, you don't have any. That's awesome. I love that there's none in here. But if there was a plastic water bottle in here, it would be made with a plastic called PET, which is polyethylene terephthalate, which is ethane, it's made with ethane that is a byproduct of gas that's derived from.
So I just want to take a quick pause here, guys. So
quick
really,
pause. Sorry, see, I told you I was gonna.
No, this is great. No, I just want to take a moment for everyone here. This is really a lot of this episode is to get you guys to know what they're doing, some projects we got coming up, but also just to create an awareness, because when we started talking about something that we'll talk about later, a couple months ago, we started. That thing. I started talking. Looking at my plastic usage, and it's like having mindfulness around plastic usage, because we do a lot of things on autopilot, just habit. I started actually looking at it and was like everything's plastic. Everything. And I started trying to even getting the butcher to wrap my bacon in paper, and it's still so many plastic products. And again, progress over perfection. I may have paralyzed, but I'm all right, baby steps here. But it's kind of gross in a way to realize how much. And then we were looking at social media this morning. There's this travel couple we follow, Maria and Jake F. Snow. They took a beach on Komodo Islands a year ago, which is some super remote pink beach in Asia.
We're gonna go.
And literally a year later, same exact spot, the beach is loaded with plastic. And even in Bali, Lauren Lee's out there. I remember when she first got there and moved there a couple months ago, they did a beach cleanup, and it was loaded with plastic. So this is stuff we need to be aware of, and especially on Earth Day, I just really want to kind of again, no judgment, this isn't to spite anyone, it's just to create awareness, but this is your Earth, you like our beautiful beaches, you're responsible for keeping them that way, but we are.
Just details and facts. Let me just do a couple details and facts real quick.
Please. I feel like I accepted at the beginning of this episode that nobody but Keith was going to be doing a lot of talking.
I just want to put out a couple little things, because often what I hear in the talking that we do is people saying like when we bring up Bali and Indonesia and things like that, and the amount of plastics that are over there, it's very, very easy for people to say, not me.
Yeah.
We're totally all set over here, right? Because we walk down the street, and while we do see plastic straws and things along, it's not like it is over in Bali, and so it's easy for us to kind of isolate ourselves. And so I really would like to just put a couple points out about that. First of all, the products that are ending up on the beaches and things out there are often made by American companies, right? So, or companies that are profiteering, is that a good word? But from the American public, like Nestle, which is a huge, giant company that makes bottled water under probably hundreds of different brand names, like Poland Springs. And they're creating a ton of plastic waste in the world. Coca-Cola is the biggest polluter on the planet as far as plastic waste goes, and that's just it's just is the way it is, right? Also, a lot of that plastic that's over there in Asia is there because we've got these blinders on. We put our plastic in that bin, and it goes and gets shipped over there. So imagine how inefficient that is. They're shipping plastic across the ocean to Asia, and then for one reason or another, because of our single sort or whatever it is, single stream recycling, plastic or things that aren't recyclable end up in that stream. Now our waste is over there, and the whole reason they're saying we don't want your stuff anymore isn't because they're trying to be jerks or anything like that. It's because we've been sending them our trash for so long, and now they're like, we don't want your trash, we just want recyclables. They haven't said don't send us your recyclables, they've said don't send us your trash anymore. And so there's a couple great organizations, but they have been doing cleanups over there, and they have found things like wrappers from Trader Joe's in Indonesia, and there are no Trader Joe's in Indonesia. That plastic is coming from here. So when people say, oh, well, that plastic's ending up in the ocean because of a bunch of rivers in Indonesia, well, that's true, but it comes from here first in one fashion or another.
Well, it's a ripple effect. It's an inadvertent ripple effect. Like, the plastic goes in the ocean here, well, there's tides and all these things that'll bring it. Like,
Right. I mean, we're all connected.
yeah.
I think the big reason why we're motivated to do what we do is because it's not like people are consciously doing all of this stuff, or like if we knew that our actions had a certain effect or impact, then we might think twice before doing that. And so part of it is really doing what we've done, which we considered ourselves pretty ignorant when we first got started with this, and we've learned so much, and it's affected how we shop on a daily basis and how we live our lives and how we eat out at restaurants and interact in general in the world. And so just providing that knowledge to people and then allowing them to make their own decisions. And so that's just a really powerful tool right there.
That's it, exactly. Like, it's the education. People just don't know.
And it's changing constantly.
Yeah.
Like recycling, what is acceptable in your neighborhood recycle today is completely different from what it used to be. So,
for sure.
So it's.
Well, I think that's a big word too, is acceptable. So I think oftentimes what I've found as I've gotten older, as I've decided to research past the veil of illusion with a lot of things, is that a lot of things in our world we're desensitized to on purpose. Because if you're desensitized, oh, you're recycling, so you're doing a good job.
Right.
Coca-Cola still gets to make their $1 billion bottom lines. But if all of a sudden people start being yo, dude, this is my Earth, and we don't just pay attention on April 22nd, Earth Day, well, yeah, this is great, Earth Day is amazing, but guys, we live on this planet 365 days a year, and every single day you do something affects the future of this planet. And I mean, I wonder if you guys know about Greta Thunberg.
Oh, of course we know.
Yeah, Greta. So she's really taking charge, and I'd love to march with her someday. But I think it's we really need to start to educate ourselves, and we really need to change the rhetoric of being desensitized. Oh, I'm recycling, so I'm doing a good job. Well, I know you are, and I know you're not on purpose doing it, but here's the actual reality: 2% of that.
Yeah.
So what steps can you take to be more mindful and do your part? Because at the end of the day, it's all about accountability for every single one of us.
The whole idea with the recycling thing is part of a good messaging marketing campaign by the companies that are making this stuff, right? So if they can just like they did back in the 70s, where they were don't be a litter bug and it's your fault for throwing stuff out the window. That was a marketing campaign by a lot of these larger larger groups or organizations rather, like Coca-Cola, Keep America Clean, or whatever it is. It was a coalition of production places that put that marketing campaign together to shift the perception of, you guys are making this, so figure out a way to make something that's environmentally friendly. Shifting that to, well, you guys are throwing it out your window, or you guys aren't handling your trash appropriately, or whatever. So it's shifting the burden of dealing with the waste off of them onto us, the consumers, and the municipalities. And so it's what's called an external expense for us, right? So we pay taxes to clean up our rivers and waterways, and we pay taxes to pick up all of this trash that ends up going into landfills and stuff. And we're paying for that while Coca-Cola and companies like that aren't.
I'm getting mad.
Yeah.
Well, instead of getting mad,
Well,
how
I'm
about
just
maybe,
saying.
can we step back a little bit, and can you guys just kind of introduce us to how Sustainable Seacoast like started, and that kind of whole story, and what you actually do?
I'll give a like really quick
Have at it.
preamble, and then
Yeah.
you can do the elevator pitch. But I think something that we started doing, which we encourage other people to do, is take a day in your life and commit to being observant. So today would be a great day to do that. And as you walk through life today, realize how many single-use things you're encountering in your life. And I keep spacing your
That's why you're getting back.
so, like, you're going out for coffee, you're going to meet a friend for drinks, you're, making something for dinner from a box or whatever, or reaching into the fridge for something. Realize how many things that you're encountering that are single use, and then think about, is there some way to avoid that? And so we were starting to develop that mentality when we were in Princeton, New Jersey, and
Great.
I'm going to go back a little bit
Good
further.
segue.
You say it perfectly.
Gave you the layout.
We were volunteering for a beach cleanup on Oahu, and we met with the executive director of the organization that was coordinating this beach cleanup, and
Sustainable Coastlines.
Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii. And he really now we were at that point, we were like trying to do all those things, right? But then he really opened our eyes to the prevalence of plastic, and really got us to slow down a second and think about how much plastic there was in our lives. And this is several years ago. It's actually before the turtle video that we've all seen, the Costa Rican turtle, right? And so it was at that time, years ago, that we decided we're not going to do straws anymore. So every time we go to a restaurant, we'll say no straw, please. We're not going to do disposable coffee cups anymore. We'll always bring our own coffee cups, and if we don't have our own coffee cups, we'll either have coffee at that place or we just won't have coffee. We'll always have our water bottles with us. And so in that, however many years it's been since we made that commitment, we've never gone thirsty. We've never not had coffee. It's been perfectly fine to be able to bring these things with us.
Yeah.
And so then to get back to what Kate was, and so that was kind of what made us realize that we needed to get plastic out of our lives. And we started boycotting places, like we'd go to a place and we'd say, can you make my sandwich rather than me having to grab one in this plastic container that you've already made? I would just like one. And if they wouldn't do that, then we wouldn't shop there anymore. And so we were taking that kind of effort to boycott places personally.
Yeah.
Then we're at this place in Princeton, this ice cream shop, great ice cream shop. They're really great people as far as the community goes, just wonderful.
Amazing, creative flavors.
So I'm not picking on them other than to just tell this story that we're sitting there waiting in line, and it's a place that always has a line. It's just that good, right? And they're making their own homemade flavors, and you can sample them. And every time you get a sample, it comes on a new single-use plastic spoon. And if you take 3 samples or you take 10 samples, each one comes on a new spoon. And then when you finally make up your mind, you get a new spoon and a new plastic bowl. And I was sitting there and I started to get this anxiety. I'm watching this bucket on the side of the thing just fill up with plastic spoons, and kind of like doing the math, and it has to be thousands a day that they're going through.
Yeah.
And while I can sit there, or we can sit there and say, we're not going to have ice cream here, we're going to boycott that, or I'm going to say, give it to me in a cone, I don't want your damn spoon, and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter, because there's a line of people waiting to contribute to that bin of plastic spoons. And so that's when we realized our best effort is to kind of hop over the counter, speak with the owners of this place, and show them their opportunity to help everyone on the other side of the counter, have less of an impact and a better kind of position for the environment, right? And so that's what we started to do. We came back to the Seacoast and we started interviewing restaurants, and we started figuring out different plans and methods for us to consult with these restaurants to help them make simple choices that could have this ripple effect that goes further upstream, right? Or further downstream, or however it works, right?
All over the stream.
All the stream is better. And so that's what we've started to do with Sustainable Seacoast. So we have 26 restaurants that have committed to seven things on our checkpoint of things that you must do. So straws have to be by request only. No plastic bags, no polystyrene or styrofoam. If you're going to use compostable goods, then you have to use a composting service, and several other things. And then our last checkbox is to commit to continuing on your sustainable journey. So if just think about ways that you can take that next step. So for instance, White Heron, if you go into their bathroom, they had this big trash can, and the paper towels were going into the trash can, and then that trash bag was going to the dump. And I was like, hey, those paper towels are compostable. Why don't we put a compost bag under there? Rather than sending those in a plastic bag to the landfill, why don't we send them to the compost company in a compostable bag? And so they made that little shift, and they're constantly making things like that. Vita Cantina did the same thing. They made that same kind of shift. And just thinking about tiny little things and being open to other people suggesting, hey, what if we did it this way?
Yeah.
Because as Kate was mentioning earlier, these restaurants are doing their business day to day, and they get into that routine, and sometimes it's hard to kind of see past that routine because they've got schedules to make and all that kind of stuff, and they're doing business, and it's not high margin business, so they're really kind of focusing on getting the job done well. And if somebody can just step in from the outside and say, hey, what if we move that trash can over here, and instead of it being a trash can, it was a compost bin? Wouldn't that be better?
Yeah.
And there's just really simple things like that. And to your point, we don't have to be perfect overnight. We don't have to sacrifice good for perfection. We can take these little steps, and I don't care what anybody says. Every single little step matters. If you start to hear people say like, oh well, why are we worrying about supporting a plastic bag ban when there's so many other plastics in the world? Well, because we're working towards the next best thing. We'll take this step because it might be an easy step right now, and then we take that next step, which will be easier after we've accomplished this step. It's just like any change in your life. It takes a step.
Well, there is so when you say that, I think of this and this is, as you said earlier, Kate, we're all one. I believe that, with all my heart. And we're all connected, and there's something in the collective consciousness that we as a consciousness, as a species, like to fix a problem when it's the building's on fire. Instead of being like, oh, I can easily see that all these steps are going to lead to the building being on fire. We're like, it's not my problem yet. It's not my problem yet. The tsunami's not hitting my town, so whatever, dude. Or my beaches are so cool.
Right.
And it's I think we need to start to take steps because, we're going to talk about the project that we got coming up here earlier, but I was motivated by all this plastic, just Bud Light cans, all the stuff on the side of the road, and I'm so for me, I'm asking bigger questions what is it in the collective consciousness that we feel the need or the impulse or the urge to I can't wait till I get to the gas station to throw my Bud Light can away. I have to just throw it out in the earth.
Well, that's an easy answer. I can tell you the answer to that one.
Well, that you're drinking Bud Light.
New Hampshire, don't drink Bud Light. That's the first one. Get some good beer.
Couldn't agree more. Is that what it is? Okay.
Also, why are you in your car drinking Bud Light?
Well, that's the answer to that particular thing. Because when we do that thing we're going to talk about doing later, we're going to notice a lot of alcohol containers. And I don't know how other states are, but New Hampshire has an open container law. So if I finish that whatever I'm drinking and I launch it out the window, I'm risking somebody seeing me launch it out the window. But if I get pulled over later for speeding or a taillight out or whatever it happens to be, I don't have an open container in the car and I don't have to go through that process. I really believe that that's why we see so many alcohol containers on the outside of the car. Which sucks. First of all, it sucks that you're drinking and driving.
Yeah.
But it also sucks that with the work that you're doing outside of this, with the work that you're doing with mental health, there's probably an aspect that you can relate to, in that we're in a place right now that being outside of our body with alcohol or drugs or any of that kind of stuff is more important to us than some of these other things that we're talking about. And I think that that's pretty sad too. Yeah. And that's coming from somebody who's a reformed alcoholic.
Yeah. And when you're trying to survive, you're number one. You're not gonna.
Well, you're selfish. You're not thinking about how is this Bud Light can and that affects
and, I mean, that's
my
you
future
have to live your
generation of
life.
children. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, yeah. When you're right. When you get caught in these mental health states, it's like I mean, I have a tough time saying this, but in some regards, it's kind of selfish because apparently you're the only thing that exists. It becomes all about you. So oftentimes you're not thinking about the downstream effects of your behaviors. So yeah, that could be a huge piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I just like, I mean, I think I've noticed like when I go like fishing up in like the White Mountains and stuff, and you're like walking around this like pristine lake, and I'm like, dude, like what is going on? It's just like I just get infuriated because it's
I think so. Like speaking of like consciousness and like when you know something, and like for example, like if you're sitting at a coffee shop or something and you know where everything goes properly, but you see
Don't
other
judge
people
me.
when you see other people like day in day out like getting a single-use plastic straw or whatever every single day, if you're like repeatedly seeing that, like for you, what's this? How do you like walk this line of anger and judgment versus like awareness and education?
It's a really, really great question.
More coffee.
It's probably.
And I think that's for anything, whether
it's probably one of the contributors to why I have a therapist now.
Yeah.
I talked with my therapist about this actual thing that you're asking me about, because I was going in and out of these fits of like deep depression and high positivity. So this past weekend, Sustainable Seacoast went and worked with the Seacoast Science Center. They did a 5K run, and we worked with them to make it a waste-free race. So there was usually, if you go on a 5K, when you get to the finish line, there'll be cases of bottled water there so you can have water at the finish line. And what we did was we brought our new hydration station and set that up and used compostable cups. And if you grabbed a compostable cup, you could refill it rather than just throwing it away and grabbing another one, right? And we educated everybody as they grabbed it. We had a wonderful volunteer team that said, hey, have some water here and feel free to refill it when you need more, or you can compost that cup so it's compostable, right? And I was feeling like just so wonderful, and like my heart was smiling, everything was just in a wonderfully positive place. On the other side of that, a couple weeks ago or a month ago, we were in Florida, and we're driving down the road, and somebody throws a plastic bottle out the window, intentionally throws like a orange juice bottle out the window. And I have this overwhelming dread come over me. Like when I see that, it affects me so emotionally, and I'm just filled with dread. I'm like, that's it, the world's gonna end, we're all effed. Right? Because all of this work that we're doing is just junk compared to this kind of disregard by everyone else.
Yeah.
So I go through that. I don't know how to tell you I deal with it, other than our director of operations, who's an awesome person, Michaela. We were walking into the library one day, and as we were walking in, we saw this person open their door and a bunch of trash fell out onto the ground. And it was a lot of aluminum cans, and the person walked over with the aluminum cans, and there was a recycle bin and a trash bin, and the person threw all of the aluminum cans in the trash. And I was like, why do we even bother?
Yeah.
And Michaela said, that is exactly why we need to bother.
Yeah.
And I was like, just that perspective switch just made me like, thank you, because that's the kind of thing I need every now and then to smack me out of my little dark corner and bring me back to some positivity.
Well, what you're going up against isn't for the faint of heart. You know, I mean, I want to keep bringing Greta Thunberg in there so everyone knows about her. But, I mean, what she's doing is not for the faint of heart. And I guarantee you, she has times where she's crying, curled up in a little ball, you know? But, like, what you're doing, like, you're trying to create the wave that's going to, and, like, it's hard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there is a lot of ignorance. Like, even, like, you guys said you started out very ignorant. Like, I was like, holy crap, when I, like, started looking at this. But, you know, I've read, like, the scientific reports of 11 years of climate change and all that stuff. Like, I don't think that stuff's just like woo woo. Like that's real, and like your politics and all your other stuff isn't gonna matter. Like if we don't have a planet to live on. So I think this stuff's very important to bring awareness, and it starts with just those small steps, those small ripples. Because again, we're gonna talk about the cool thing, but it's like we're here to inspire the next generation, and I don't think we went through an entire generation for us where like I didn't really hear about any of this stuff. This stuff wasn't cool. Like it's like whatever. Like
It didn't get the kind of
like
press.
I have to admit, like there was one point. Oh God, this is so. Don't hurt me. It's not that cross. But like when I was like 16, I just threw a bunch of trash out the window.
Sure.
Like I thought it was like funny or cool. I don't even know what the hell I thought. Honestly, but it's ignorance. I look back at that. It's like I cringe when I say that, but. I have to look back at it when like you see someone else throw something out the window.
Yeah.
But I also think it's a desensitization because one thing that I've noticed over the years that just I don't know how this is just the norm, cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
I like did a lot of landscaping and I can remember times where I mowed up like the mall.
Did you ever smoke?
No, ever. I mowed up like an entire section of lawn. The entire hopper was filled with like, not only was it disgusting because I had to clean that crap out, but and then like I watched going in Portsmouth, some lady just, and I was just in a mood that day, so I literally called the police. I'm that guy.
Yeah.
And I reported it, and the lady on the phone was like, oh, doesn't everyone do that? I was like, give me your fucking manager right now. But that's everyone's attitude, right? So it's like, it's about changing the attitude, it's about bringing awareness, like, no, that's a big deal.
I love how you say, I don't know what I was thinking, because I was a smoker before. And so I used to flick my cigarettes out the window. That was part of the process. And that's everybody is in that. I mean, when we were in Italy, I saw folks smoking their cigarettes, and this is today, not 30 years ago. Yeah. This is today, people flicking their cigarettes in the canals in Italy. Venice, right?
Yeah. Oh.
And I'm like sitting out the window, I'm like, so part of me is thinking back to when I was flicking them out the window. I can't judge this guy because I did that. Why though? And I like daily go through this, like, why did I do that? And like part of me feels like what I'm doing now is partial retribution for what I was doing then, right? As far as cigarette butts goes, I think from the early days we were under this misconception that the filters were made from cotton and that they would just break down and decompose, and that maybe that's part of why we think it's okay. You got paper, tobacco, and cotton, and why not just throw it out? I think very few people actually realize that those filters are made with plastic, right? So I think that might be part of why people do it. Obviously culture, right? So everybody's doing it. It's just this kind of cultural thing that everybody does. After quitting smoking, which was now coming up on 13 years ago.
Congrats, man. That's incredible.
I worked at a hospital where part of my job was to go around and clean up cigarette butts, and it was, interestingly enough, I was very happy to do it because I kind of had this like mental tally going on of how many cigarette butts I was cleaning up. To repay for all the ones I've been throwing out for the previous 20 years.
That's interesting. Well, I have a question. So I know you were in a way kind of like born into this like sustainability lifestyle, but I have a question for you, Keith. Like, do you think you taking care of and like quote unquote cleaning up your body was aligned with your like outlook on cleaning up the earth?
I think maybe in a kind of abstract way. I've always been somebody who has been focused on betterment, whether it's trying to improve my personal self in one way or another, or trying to improve my business in one way or the other, but constantly focused on growing, and so I think that that has something to do with it. Although my focus in the early years, in my younger years, was probably misguided and trying to like figure out how I could make more money and things like that.
Trying to better your enjoyment of life.
Yeah, I was very much engaged in
success was.
I was very much engaged in that whole consumptive kind of thing. Like if I have the bigger TV, then I'm better. If I have a bigger car or a nicer house, then I am better. And that's what we've been preached to for eons, right? We go and we sit down and we watch TV, and the TV tells us how insignificant we are and that we need to go out and purchase things to be as good as our neighbors, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of I was very much influenced by that. So I can't tell you how much getting rid of your TV and not watching commercials will improve your life.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, I think that's a great question. I love that question.
It was a great
That was
question.
an incredible question.
Did I
Because I
answer?
think it's like, yeah, I think you did. I mean, I think it's just about that we oftentimes, again, especially in America, because we're preached capitalism or preached consumerism, like, buy this or you'll be better. And like, you need this six-pack ab maker machine to be the best human being you can be. And it's like, you know, I'm enough starts from your internal world, which no one else controls other than you. And oftentimes I think we find that once we start to focus on changing this first, that's when all this starts to change. And I think what Michaela was alluding to is like, you stop smoking, reformed alcoholic, you're cleaning up your inner world. So all of a sudden you're like, oh, now I gotta clean up this world. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of cool how that transition maybe
It's way easier said than done, though.
Oh, of course.
Oh, yeah.
I still think that there's a place for consumption. You know, like there's tools that will help you get to where you want to be.
I saw it.
Okay.
I'm so happy. That means like warm weather and spring's here. High five.
So, you know, like if you want to start cleansing your body and feeling good and start having that like from the inside out feeling, maybe having a juicer is the thing that's going to help you to do that. Like, sure, there is
These are mindful
stuff that,
decisions.
yeah, but it's like, it's stuff that you are very conscious about and that you know that you're going to use and that's going to help you to get to where you want to be. So for Keith, it's a Tesla. He really wants to have an electric car.
It's a want.
Which is technically a very consumptive item, but you know, thinking about the bigger picture and the other things that it will affect in his life and the things that he'll be able to kind of promote through that is big picture, becoming a better person. And
Yeah,
being
we've
able to
figured out a way to
protect your-
justify it.
At the end of the day, like Jim Carrey says, like we're all just guessing. Like we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah.
We can predict and do this. We're all just trying to do the best we can. You know?
Well, I mean, mindfully too, on even like a smaller scale, like everyday level. Like you guys eat vegan, but you spend a lot of time outside, right? Like, can you talk to that a little bit?
Try to spend as much time outside as we can.
Yeah, hard in the winter.
A friend of ours who encouraged us, I'm going to let you speak after I say one thing. A friend of ours who is vegan, we chat with her a lot and kind of ask her these kinds of questions, right? And so, you know, what do you do when that bug's flying around? Do you squish it, or when you see an ant, or I mean that kind of silly thing? But also, do you wear leather shoes or those types of things, right? And so the idea, and I think what everybody's kind of going on here is intention, thoughtfulness, making decisions that are actually decisions, not just these kind of mindless kind of grabs as we go through life. So if we are sitting there saying, kind of toiling and thinking about that to make that decision, I think that's where we'll start to make better choices.
We definitely were very influenced by a friend who has an awesome podcast, The Plantiful. If anyone wants to watch that, she and her husband run The Plantiful together and have a lot of really interesting guests that talk about kind of more veganism as a lifestyle. And so for us, it was a conscious decision because it's the number one thing we can do to be environmental activists. Learning that the animal agriculture industry is responsible for more emissions than anything else in the world. And so it was an easy shift for us, me growing up vegetarian and Keith eating whatever I make. It's kind of an easy
Very
shift.
easy for me.
But it's turned into a lifestyle, and I think the biggest lesson that we've learned that we carry through every intentional decision in our life is that it's not about what you're giving up. It's about what you're being, what new things you're bringing into your life. So where most people will say, well, what do you eat? Thinking you're not eating meat, you're not eating cheese, you're not eating eggs, like all these things that you're taking away. But what I look at it as is think of all the things I'm gaining. I'm gaining a whole new perspective on all these other ingredients out there that I've never explored before. Like I've never cooked with hemp seeds before. Like what is that?
Yeah.
And now it's like one of my favorite foods that I don't do without. And the ability to be more creative and to try new restaurants that are exploring a different type of diet and eating local and what does that mean, and like enjoying stuff that's fresh instead of shipped from thousands of miles away and not so fresh. So it's all about what we're gaining, and if we focus on that, all of our decisions in this realm become really fun and exciting
Yeah.
and enjoyable.
Well, I think the other thing with that too, like just from what I understand is, as far as meat goes, and like, you know, at least my understanding, I know everyone's body's different, everyone's body responds differently, but like being vegan is like honoring your body, like taking care of it in a different way. Like I know with meat, I think that the statistic was like basically the second it enters your mouth, it enters your bloodstream, which is instantly causing inflammation. So like almost immediately, like you're feeling, and we're like the most inflamed country in the world. And I work out and like I still eat meat, like I love bacon, like guys, I just don't know what to tell you. Like, I mean, I've been eating meat my whole life, so it's like an addiction at this point, but I'm trying to work towards the plant-based. But, you know, I'm human, I'm not perfect, but I know these things, like I feel I've been working out more lately and like I'm feeling inflammation and stuff, and it's like, well, it's probably in part due to my meat consumption, you know, like so.
You tap on something really, really big, which is that we're an all or nothing mentality in our country.
Who, me? No way.
Well, so it's like,
What just happened in here?
I was like coughing. Yeah, like I'm all like sweaty all the time.
I'm like on fire.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
start taking clothes
That
off.
truck, like seriously, well, I don't have anything underneath, so
Oh my
unfortunately.
gosh.
I think that when I was growing up, like the mentality was either you're vegan or you're not. Like
Yeah.
if you have honey or an egg, like once in a blue moon or something, then you can't call yourself vegan.
Yeah.
And
Kate doesn't know what a blue moon is.
You've taught me. I may not remember that, but it's like that doesn't matter. So you know, you can. It's not like going through your day and being like, oh crap, I forgot my reusable coffee mug. I'm left with a decision here. Like if I get this to-go cup just this once, and you know, do better next time. That's okay. You know, find another use for that cup if you you know, repurpose it the next day or whatever, or make sure it's a paper one and find a place to compost it. Or so it's like this mentality of like, well, I can't do that because I could never be all in. And it's totally fine to be like, yeah, I'm plant-based, but I love bacon, and so I have it every so often.
Yeah.
Great. Think of all the awesome things you're doing by everything else you're choosing in your life.
Yeah.
Hey, Keith.
Just so you all know, just because it's a paper cup doesn't mean it's compostable. Oftentimes,
Sure.
these cheaper paper cups are lined with plastic.
Which
So,
brings a really good topic. I would love to talk about compostables.
Yeah.
and
Oh
what
my
that
God.
means.
Please,
It's
educate
a
us.
huge trend right
Huge.
now. And I think it's definitely a trend that is here to stay and that's going in a really awesome direction. It's the solution for many things, but there's so many like things to understand about that and misconceptions, because what did we used to think compostable meant?
that I personally thought that when we threw our cup in the thing and said, "Don't worry, our cups are made from corn," I was like, "Oh, perfect! I can just toss it out in the street and it'll just disappear." I really thought that.
Right, you think that compostable means biodegradable or decomposable,
Yeah.
and it's totally not.
We used to have like a compost bin in like grade school. We used to have something called the board report.
The horde.
The board report, it used to be on the announcements. Like, and we were like, we
That's
did
cool.
67 pounds of
That's
blah, blah,
excellent.
blah. So I don't know if I was like banana peels and orange peels. I didn't know cups were a thing.
Well, back then
Back
it wasn't.
then.
Well, yeah, man. Well, even like now, it's
Compostable.
like new for me because so we actually, you guys be pumped about this at Armando's. They just bought, I think it was legitimately the exact same compostable cups you guys used for your race this weekend.
Cool.
Because like, well, she was using glass and like she didn't want to break and whatever, so the chef bought us these, and I was like, at first
For
I
out
like,
back.
no, just for us, for like drinking water.
For Outback.
Yeah, sure. Well,
Yeah.
we're not really Outback, but yeah, sure.
Not the customer.
No, for us. For
Okay.
us to like, cause like, you know, we need water while we're
Sure.
running around and stuff. And at first I thought they were plastic, so I gave her shit. Like I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
had shit on her,
Oh,
honestly.
nice.
And then literally I saw your cups were the exact same cups, and I was like,
Wait, why can't you drink out of the glass reusable?
Sure.
well, because you don't want to break. Well, because so everyone's stacking them near the ice machine. If a glass breaks, gets in the ice, like
That's
you're not
not
gonna
good.
serve ice
Well,
or
the
glassy ice.
bartender's using glass cups, and what if they break the glass? Isn't
Well,
that
they
just
set it up
progress?
more.
Also, just so we
Sorry, this is an
know,
argument.
Yeah.
reusable is much better than compostable.
I mean,
Yes.
So we should use glasses and reusable
There-
things.
So one of our restaurants decided to purchase all of their employees the stainless
Yeah.
reusable
Reusables.
containers,
Mm.
and it's branded and everything, and it's fun. Like they love having.
Well, it feels like
You
a
know.
gift too.
Right, and it's like it's not something that's sold to the public, so it's like
Yeah.
you have a little badge of I'm a member of this restaurant.
That's a good idea, too.
But there's
Did you
so
apologize
many.
to her?
I haven't seen her yet. So I will say, sorry.
The nice
I
thing,
got
the nice thing
it.
about the options today is that there's many different ways to achieve the same goal,
Yeah.
and composting is one of those options, but it has to be understood what it really means in order
Yeah.
to make sure that you're doing it correctly to achieve the goal that you
Crashed.
intended.
What happened here?
Just had too
They
many
only last
people.
an hour. Instagram only lasts an hour.
No,
You
bye.
had too many people that were
Well, I
watching.
think a huge thing I want to really point out in this conversation is just progress over perfection. It's the thing that like keeps like
Mhm.
popping through my mind because we were talking about the whole vegan thing. Like I still eat meat, but one way, and I don't know that I want to change that because there's like certain grain types, honestly. But I think my way of doing it in a more sustainable and a healthy way is like I've gotten into hunting. Like I fish for a striper and I try and get my own deer. Like I tried last year, you know. So I think like
local.
yeah, local
That's
like
the you don't get much more local.
yeah, so I mean, like for me, I mean, there's different ways, right? There's not one size fits all solutions. Like it's just comes back to that mindful
Sure.
decisions and awareness and
Right. I mean,
you know, like
from a meat perspective, I mean, it's a conscious decision that we don't eat meat. We could certainly choose to find other ways. Like there's great places, farms locally that have locally sourced meat, and definitely far better practices from a humanitarian and environmental perspective.
Mm-hmm.
The humanitarian, obviously, a controversial. Animalitarian.
Yeah.
sure.
Ethical?
Anyway,
Is that a word? Ethical?
I just made
Yeah.
it.
I like it.
I
Let's
just-
roll
I mean,
it.
that's the whole-
Animalitarian.
You're not going to start talking about ethically killing animals. are you?
No, because that's like a can of worms that we don't want to open.
Yes,
But
that
you know,
can go
like
forever.
as far as your choices go, if you're gonna go, you know, like the factory farm that is wrapped in plastic and styrofoam.
All
in
of
your
our
grocery
systems
store,
are failing.
You know.
oh,
It's okay.
gosh.
Mine's still going
We're
whatever.
good.
Versus supporting your local farm that's doing things in a much more sustainable way. So it's about making decisions. So if that's the right decision for you, then don't feel guilty
Yeah.
about consuming
No,
what
I'm not
you're
going to.
what you're doing. And you know, there's plenty of other areas in your life that you can affect things and promote what you're doing to other people.
Perfect time to transition into what we're doing.
Our special
Yeah.
thing.
Our special thing. Well, and the reason I'm bringing it up is it's 5 after 10, and
Yes.
I know you guys have another special thing.
Yeah.
They're going to a beach cleanup, guys, and
Beach cleanup.
Beach cleanup.
what is that? We're actually going to be doing a Portsmouth community cleanup.
Yes.
Woo woo.
In cahoots with Sustainable Seacoast, and even Ohana Kitchen will be
Ohana,
a part of that.
Sustainable Seacoast member.
Snacks.
So what we're doing, guys, it's this upcoming
This coming
Saturday, April
Saturday.
27th,
This
8:30
Saturday.
a.m. We're starting at Ohana
Be
Kitchen.
there.
We're gonna go for 2 hours, walk around Portsmouth. We're gonna clean up trash. We'll be distributing you guys all the gloves and all the awesome compostable bags and stuff.
Yeah.
For you guys to pick stuff up, right?
Yeah, so you guys are organizing this. We're just kind of helping from a messaging and marketing kind of way, but I think it's amazing that this has happened because it's through our connection that you guys have started to have a little bit of your own journey and wanting to give back to the community. And what we're very, very fond of and supportive of is that working locally can make incredible changes. Rather than trying to look at some of these giant worldly problems, we can look locally and make some local solutions happen. And as that starts to blossom out into other communities, they make their own choices and their own kind of impacts, and the world's a better place.
Yeah, guys. So I mean, Mr. Positivity, like high reacher guy here. I think we can get 1,000 people at this thing. Maybe not on the first one. These guys are all doubters over here. But help me prove them wrong. No, I mean, for us, it starts with community and like the ripple effect. So I've been cleaning up trash on the side of the road, whatever, for a long time in silence, just doing it because it makes me feel good. But I think it's like we have all these amazing opportunities to get it out on social media, to share it, and I want to make it cool to clean up trash and care for the earth. So if you guys want to help be a part of that, it's happening at 8:30 a.m. Ohana's Kitchen. I mean, it could be like your Saturday morning workout today. Get a walk, you know, get a good pump going, feel good about your day, get that sucker rolling on a good note.
Also really great part of these types of things is because, you know, ultimately what we want to do is kind of work further upstream, right? We want to try and get the stuff taken care of before it ends up on the streets. But what these events also do, as well as cleaning up, which is huge, is it gets you involved with other people who care about the same kinds of things. And that is another kind of one of those snowballs where you're working with people who feel the same way as you, and you can have some of these types of relatable stories, and you're like, yeah, let's do our own thing, or let's come back to this next month, or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd love to leave everyone with what can you do type thing.
Yes,
So coming
please.
next Saturday is an awesome thing. Making conscious decisions in your life is one where you recognize this is single use, how can I avoid this? But also understanding, like when you go to a coffee shop and you're given a compostable cup, iced coffee cup or whatever that looks like plastic, asking, do you have commercial composting that I can put this in? Because if they don't have a commercial composting system that's as good as trash in a landfill, and what a commercial composting system is that it's taking the compost that puts it in a space that elevates the temperature to a certain point that will then decompose that your backyard compost cannot do. And so that's the important thing. So to note, so that if there is no commercial compost, say, well, do you have a fruit hair cup that I can use instead? And so kind of recognizing those differences, and then also saying to the restaurant, thank you for having this, or letting them know that you're on board, or that you would like to see something if they don't have a compostable or non-single-use option. Say, okay, I'm not going to get a coffee, and this is why, because it's important to have that feedback, because that's how the changes are made. And if a restaurant or place doesn't know that that's something that's wanted, they'll never change. So that's my tidbit.
I love that so much.
I have two quick things that I want to ask you guys. It's actually questions. So, my guilty pleasure is Dunkin' Donuts. I don't do it all the time.
Okay, we gotta go.
Can
Yeah,
you
I know. I figured that. I know it's gonna get the death stare.
please?
Listen, I'm just being honest. Okay.
First of all, gross.
No. Second of all, all right. Let me finish. You guys are attacking me before I even like
You
talk.
said you knew it was going to happen. If you didn't want it
I
to happen,
know.
you should
No,
have said
listen.
anything.
I was ready for this, but I was like hoping I could at least get my statement out.
No.
So clearly they use everything's
Awful.
one-time plastic, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Is there a solution for that?
Yeah, don't go to Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Like,
100%.
listen. Here's
It's not even good.
what you want me to say
so
is that
bad.
what you want me to say is bring your own reusable thing. I don't even know if Dunkin' Donuts will let you use a reusable thing. They might. If
Some
they
places
do,
don't.
then do that.
Well, is there
But
a
here's
solution for them? Like, is there a different type of cup they could use? Because so here's where I'm going with this. It's my cousin's wife. Their family owns a lot of the Dunkin' Donuts around here, so I gotta reach where I can be like, listen, I like Dunkin' Donuts, guys. Like, how about one of these cups?
Unfortunately, Dunkin' Donuts doesn't. Oftentimes, their hands are tied by a larger corporation that
Decision
tells them
isn't
what they can
made
do.
At each
So
place.
you have to buy these cups. You have to act a certain way. All these types of things.
So you can make a statement with, find someone in the corporate office that you can write a letter to,
Right.
or start a petition to, because the change is going to happen at the top for places like that, which is why we support local, because those are the places that listen to their consumers.
That's the
And
key, I think, is for me personally, is local is the solution to so many things. And I know that these Dunkin' Donuts are owned by local people. I get that. I totally get that. But the decisions that they get to make are made further upstream, and they're talking about, styrofoam cups and plastic things and all these straws. And I walk right past Dunkin' Donuts and go to White Heron, and as I'm walking past Dunkin' Donuts, I see their orange straws on the street, and I see their cups, their styrofoam cups flattened in the street, and I think to myself,
All of yourself.
all of me, that's why I continue to go on.
But if Dunkin'
And not
Donuts-
that white herring cups don't end up on the street
Yeah.
too.
Right.
I
If
just
Dunkin' Donuts is what you truly love, then figure out a way to make a
Well,
change.
so hold on. This is my Dunkin'
Yeah,
Donuts story.
go.
On this. No, so I saw. So the other question I had was about something really cool. So I saw something on Instagram yesterday. They're doing this in Europe. I believe it was Sweden, maybe.
Sweden.
Where on the beaches they have like the local coffee shops are putting up signs that we're gonna give you a pail. If you fill it up with trash, bring it back, dump it, you get a free cup of coffee. Before I leave, I don't know if it's psycho of me because I got a lot going on, but I'd like to go down to Hampton Beach and propose this. But same question though, a lot of those places, just because they're local, doesn't mean they don't use plastic
Right.
coffee cups. So
Right.
what's the solution there? I guess that's the overall question.
It's-
What is the solution for cups? I would be like, yeah, you can do this awesome incentive, and then even more to like really back it up, you could use X cup.
Yeah, so thank you for such a softball question. It's such a huge, deep answer that we don't have time to
Okay,
get into
okay.
really. There are so many different things that need to change, but getting out of the disposable mentality is one of those things that we can do. We can accept the fact that we're going to bring our reusable cups with us to a coffee shop.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Tandem Coffee Roasters in Portland has just started this great program where they have reduced the cost of all of their drinks by 25 cents. Reduced the cost of all of their drinks by 25 cents. If you bring in your own reusable cup, you get your coffee for whatever that price is. Let's say it's $2. Let's say it used to be $2.25 and now it's $2. You bring in your own reusable cup, it's $2. If you have your coffee for here, it's $2. If you want to take one of our disposable coffee cups with you, it's now $2.25. You have to pay 25 cents for that cup. And what that does is it flips people's understanding of the fact that this cup that you're taking away now has value, right? So we're going to figure out where that cup goes. So this idea that Coca-Cola and Nestle and all these other places want us to recycle properly, or even as unfortunate as this is the idea that you're going to go out and pick up a bucket full of trash and get a free coffee. That still puts this kind of pressure on us, is that, well, it's our fault that these things are not compostable and are not healthy for the environment and all that kind of stuff. I really feel like, as much as we shouldn't even be throwing banana peels on the beach, right? Because those are compostable or whatever. If for instance, a coffee cup was made out of banana peels and somebody accidentally left it out in the world, it would turn back into dirt and it would be absorbed by Earth again, right? I just feel like these companies do have a responsibility in the stuff that they're pushing across the counter to us. They're using it as a marketing tool. All of their packaging is a marketing tool. All of their packaging is something that is being provided to us just to get their item into our hands. These are vessels that they are making conscious choices to use. I think they should have a responsibility with those things.
For sure. I mean, I think I've seen stuff about like hemp stuff that like decomposes, like literally hemp paper or hemp blades, hemp cups, hemp silverware that all like decomposes. And I was like proposed like, why don't we use this? Like, I don't know what the production method is of that, so maybe that's not sustainable. I don't know, but like you said, it's the
reusable is really the biggest solution.
Okay.
All of these other disposable things are great if they're more environmentally friendly, but in the end, if we need to use croplands to create things that aren't going to be creating food so that we can throw stuff away, not really great. Better than plastic, but it's not really the best solution.
And it's a much greater expense for the company that is purchasing those things to use, which then bumps up the price, and then people don't want to pay it because it's more expensive than going to Dunkin' Donuts. So, like, there's so many added reasons in there
Pretty deep
why.
question.
Such a rabbit hole.
Right?
Pretty deep.
I love it. I'm so fired up. I know you guys get
Let me
it.
give my one kind of tidbit that Kate gave, and that is that support businesses that support these types of things. So become a Sustainable Seacoast member. It's $25. We went to Green Elephant last night and with our family, and our Sustainable Seacoast discount paid for half of our membership right off the bat. So you use your Sustainable Seacoast card with participating restaurants that provide a discount or that provide some perk or another, and you kind of recoup that cost of becoming a member. That helps us do our work. So helping us to get to the Seacoast Science Center and provide a waste-free environment for their races, or to go to the music halls, Concert in the Lot, or the other work we're doing with the music hall, the Westival, all these kinds of things where we're trying to help reduce that waste from the beginning, further upstream. You help us out. So sustainableseacoast.org, become a member and help us out.
So cool. Love it.
So,
Can you tell us what it means to have a wild heart?
Saturday the 27th, go to the cleanup.
Yeah.
that's what it means.
That's
right
what it
there.
means.
Can you tell us what it means to have a wild heart?
I felt like it was going to be Kate that answered
Take it
this.
away.
Well, my definition would kind of be my life philosophy, which is never stop growing.
Love that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I feel like my wildest heart is sometimes a sheltered, closeted kind of person who's afraid to go out and do things like this. So for me, having a wild heart is crossing over that line of fear and introducing myself to a stranger and hearing their story.
Take yourself outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah, and becoming a part of someone else's story and learning and realizing that, like Dr. Brene Brown says, we're all doing our best. We're all trying as hard as we can, and to realize that somebody else next door might be using plastic cups, but they believe that they're doing their best for themselves, and I need to respect that.
Mhm.
Love that.
Well, speaking of Dr. Brene Brown on this, it's all about getting in the ring. Respect the people that get in the ring. So
Oh.
get in the ring. Have a
All
great
right.
week.
Yay!
That's all. Bye.
All of
you
our
guys
things
for
are
being
failing.
here.
Yeah.
Yay!
Happy Monday!
Happy Monday!
Happy Earth Day!